From the smart factories that hum with automated precision to the devices quietly powering your home office, technology isn't just interwoven into our lives, it is the fabric.
It really is.
This incredible connectivity unlocks unprecedented efficiencies and innovations, but it also casts a long, complex shadow, a growing web of cyber risks that touch everything.
It's true. The digital world isn't just part of our physical one anymore. The lines are truly blurring, and that fusion brings both, immense potential and significant vulnerability we really can't afford to ignore.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where today we're cutting through the noise to unravel the hidden risks where our digital and physical worlds collide. We're going on a deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes frankly unsettling world of cybersecurity in our increasingly interconnected infrastructure. Our mission today is to equip you with the essential knowledge to understand these critical shifts. We'll be unpacking the convergence of information technology, or IT, and operational technology, OT. Then diving into the intricate security challenges of Internet of Things, IoT, and finally, looking at the new vulnerabilities introduced by hybrid work environments.
In this deep dive, it pulls insights from a range of expert analyses on IT-OT convergence. The cutting-edge IoT security best practices from organizations like the IoT Security Foundation.
Okay.
And detailed reports on hybrid work risks, all woven together with real-world cyber incidents that really underscore just how high the stakes truly are.
So let's unpack this. Historically, IT and OT have lived in entirely separate worlds, right? What's the profound shift happening now that's forcing them together? And why does it matter so much for security?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how these two traditionally distinct operating models are merging. Information technology, IT, has always been about managing data, your computer systems, networks, software. Think the flow of information across your business, its storage, communication, that sort of thing.
The digital realm.
Exactly. Operational technology, OT, on the other hand, deals with the hardware and software that directly monitors and controls physical processes. We're talking about industrial settings. Manufacturing plants, energy grids, healthcare facilities, transportation systems. Its primary focus is the immediate, real-time protection of individuals.
Right.
And ensuring physical industrial operations are optimized, reliable, and above all, safe.
That distinction between data and physical control seems clear. But what are the core differences in their operations and priorities that have traditionally kept them siloed? And why does breaking down those silos create such a unique security challenge?
Yeah, the core differences lie in their functions, scope, and crucially, their temporal aspects and risk tolerance. OT systems demand real-time responsiveness because even a momentary delay can have immediate tangible consequences.
Like actual physical damage?
Physical damage, environmental hazards, or even harm to employees. Imagine a split-second delay in a power plant or a chemical facility. It's critical. IT, conversely, prioritizes efficient data storage and processing, often in non-real-time environments. This fundamental difference in temporal sensitivity means security priorities also diverge. IT emphasizes confidentiality and data integrity, while OT prioritizes functionality and uninterrupted availability.
Availability. That's key.
It's paramount. This creates a critical tension. An IT team might schedule a system patch during off hours, assuming, data downtime is acceptable. But for an OT system controlling, say, a water treatment plant, even a momentary disruption could mean widespread issues or direct physical risks. This clash in priorities is exactly where security gaps emerge, ready for exploitation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. If they're so fundamentally different, what's driving this convergence? What are the surprising benefits that make taking on these risks actually worthwhile?
Well, the convergence is driven by the promise of unprecedented efficiency and innovation. The real aha moment of IT-OT convergence isn't just about efficiency, though. It's about transforming a factory floor from like a black box into a predictive, self-optimizing organism.
Wow.
By dissolving traditional limitations, it enables real-time data exchange, fostering a seamless flow of information between the digital and physical. This allows you to leverage advanced analytics to optimize processes, predict equipment failures before they happen.
That's huge.
And then significantly lower operational costs. And, paradoxically perhaps, it also fortifies cybersecurity measures by enabling a more unified, holistic approach to protecting both digital and physical assets. It fosters a culture of continuous improvement and innovation.
But that synergy, it doesn't come easy, right? What are the biggest hurdles, the biggest challenges organizations face when attempting to bring IT and OT together?
Yeah, this raises an important question. What are the stumbling blocks? Our sources highlight three major areas. First, security risks. Converged systems introduce entirely new attack vectors.
Makes sense.
The very connectivity that enhances efficiency also opens the floodgates for intruders. Imagine a hacker gaining access through an IT network and then using that foothold to disrupt essential OT services like energy grids or manufacturing plants. The disparities in IT's confidentiality focus and OT's real-time availability focus can create dangerously inadequate protection.
Right.
And the Industrial Internet of Things, or IoT, just amplifies this, turning every connected industrial device into a potential entry point for a cyber threat. We saw that with the 2021 cyber attack on a U.S. water treatment plant where hackers exploited a vulnerability to alter chemical levels.
That's a terrifying thought. So the more entry points, the more complex the defense needs to be.
Exactly. Second, there are significant technological hurdles. Interoperability is a big one.
Yeah.
Legacy OT systems, some decades old. Well, they weren't designed for seamless integration with standard IT protocols like TCP/IP.
They speak different languages, basically.
Pretty much. They often rely instead on specialized, often proprietary industrial communication protocols like Modbus or Profibus, which are fundamentally different from how your office computers talk. Keeping pace with rapid IT technological evolution while maintaining OT reliability is a constant, delicate balancing act.
And what about the people involved? You mentioned clashing priorities. It sounds like bridging cultures might be as hard as bridging the actual technologies.
You're absolutely right, and this is perhaps the most critical element.
Yeah.
The human factor. There's often a clash between traditionally siloed cultures, IT professionals prioritizing data integrity versus OT experts emphasizing operational continuity and physical safety.
Two different mindsets.
Completely. This isn't just a communication gap. It requires fostering deeply interdisciplinary skills and innovative training programs. It's a complete paradigm shift in organizational thinking. Navigating these complex waters requires a unique blend of skills, a strategic approach, and constant vigilance. It's a huge area.
And I imagine finding people with that specific blend of IT and OT security expertise is tough.
It really is. It's a growing need.
Actually, if you're interested in being part of the solution here or maybe exploring opportunities in this evolving field, you might find valuable resources over at teamrisk.securitycareers.help. They focus on exactly these kinds of complex team-based security challenges.
That's a great point. Building those teams is crucial.
So, to effectively navigate this, what concrete steps do organizations need to take? What does the roadmap look like?
Well, our sources point to 4 critical steps. First, a comprehensive risk assessment to identify specific vulnerabilities in the converged environment. You have to know where you're weak.
Okay.
Second, robust network segmentation to prevent lateral movement of threats. Think of it like firewalls for different parts of the network, or even creating air gaps or physical barriers for the most critical OT systems.
Keep things separate.
Isolate the risk. Third, creating a robust, multi-layered incident response plan. This absolutely has to include rigorous employee training and continuous monitoring. It's not just a plan on paper.
Right. Practice makes perfect, or at least better prepared.
Precisely. And finally, regularly updating security best practices to keep pace with the ever-evolving threat landscape. It's a constant cycle.
Okay, so moving beyond the ITOT convergence specifically, another massive area of interconnectedness is the Internet of Things, or IoT. I mean, from smart homes to smart cities, these devices are everywhere, right? From simple sensors to complex gateways. What stands out to you about the unique security challenges of this, well, expanding universe?
What's truly fascinating here is not just the sheer scale, but the incredible diversity of IoT devices. While they offer immense convenience, their inherent security flaws can have severe consequences far beyond just, inconvenience.
Yeah. Like what?
We're talking about infringement of privacy, significant financial losses, damage to property, and even risks to the health or life, depending on the device. For the vendors, it means loss of trust, reputational damage, financial penalties. The profound insight here, I think, is that security must be designed in from the very beginning. It's not an add-on. It's a foundational layer.
Because it's too late afterwards.
It's much harder and often impossible to truly fix later. Because in a world where everything is connected, a single unpatched smart light bulb in a remote office could potentially become the beachhead for an attack on an entire corporate network. It bridges the gap from a simple convenience to a critical vulnerability.
That really drives home the risk. Our sources delve into some critical best practices for securing IoT devices. Can you walk us through some of the most vital ones? Maybe highlight why they're so challenging to implement at scale.
Absolutely. The IoT Security Foundation's guidelines provide concise, essential advice. Let's look at a few examples. First, physical security. IoT devices are often physically accessible, meaning they can be tampered with directly.
Right, someone could just walk up and grab it.
Exactly. The guidelines stress removing or disabling administration or test interfaces from production devices, making circuitry physically inaccessible. For example, by literally epoxying chips to circuit boards and using tamper-evident packaging. This isn't just about preventing physical theft. It prevents physical tampering and sophisticated side-channel attacks where someone might deduce information from, say, power consumption or electromagnetic emissions.
Wow, okay, so protecting the device itself even if someone has physical access.
Precisely. Next, device secure boot. The integrity of a device really depends on executing a trusted boot sequence every time it starts up.
What does that mean exactly?
It means using a hardware-based tamper-resistant capability, like a Trusted Platform Module, or TPM. Think of it as a secure little chip that acts as a root of trust. It stores crucial data and verifies each stage of the boot code, ensuring no rogue code runs. And it's critical because if a device doesn't fail gracefully into a secure state when something goes wrong, well, it might, for example, reboot into an unsecure diagnostic mode that an attacker could easily exploit, rather than just shutting down safely or alerting administrators. It's about building trust from the very first moment the device powers on.
That makes perfect sense. Then we have application security, which I imagine is vital whether the apps are developed in-house or come from third parties.
Absolutely vital. Whether in-house or third-party, applications must be designed with security from the start. This includes operating applications at the lowest privilege level possible, least privilege.
Don't give it more access than it needs.
Exactly. Isolating them through techniques like sandboxing. Validating all data input, because invalid input can open doors for attacks, and never hard-coding credentials into the software. And crucially, all default user accounts and passwords must be removed. Default credentials are like leaving the front door wide open with the key under the mat. It's just asking for trouble.
And that leads directly to credential management, which, given the sheer number of IoT devices out there, must be a complete nightmare.
It is a huge challenge, and it's absolutely key. Compromised credentials are the easiest way for attackers to gain unauthorized access. Devices should have unique, factory-set tamper-resistant identifiers, good password practices, strong encryption, storing keys securely in specialized modules like secure access modules, SAMs, PPMs, or hardware security modules, HSMs, and aiming for two-factor authentication wherever possible are critical.
But doing that for millions of devices.
The logistical complexity for manufacturers is immense. Uniquely provisioning and securely storing credentials for millions, maybe billions of devices, it's a massive undertaking. And a factory reset must fully remove all user data, not just hide it.
It sounds like there are just so many points where vulnerabilities can emerge. And not just from outside attackers, right? Sometimes the risk comes from within an organization, maybe through mistakes or even malicious intent.
That's a vital point. Insider risk is a major concern.
For those of you interested in understanding and mitigating those kinds of risks, the ones originating inside an organization, insiderrisk.securitycareers.help, actually offers valuable insights into this very specialized area of cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's critical. And finally, related to all this, is securing software updates, often delivered over the air, or OTA. Devices need regular updates to fix bugs and vulnerabilities discovered after they ship.
Right, patching.
Exactly. OTA updates allow remote upgrades of firmware and software, ensuring devices receive the latest versions. But the update routine itself must cryptographically validate the integrity and authenticity of the package before installation.
Why is that so important?
To prevent attacks like time of check to time of use, or TOTTO. That's where an attacker cleverly swaps out a legitimate update with a malicious one in the tiny window between when the device checks the update and when it actually installs it.
Sneaky.
Very. And beyond individual device security, you have to think about managing thousands or even millions of these devices across an entire smart city or large enterprise. That's where the overarching concept of IoT device management becomes crucial.
So managing the whole life cycle.
The entire life cycle, yeah. From provisioning, that initial setup, to ongoing monitoring and maintenance, there are platforms that offer bulk configuration, real-time diagnostics, and critical remote control capabilities. Edge computing also plays a role here, reducing latency and enhancing security by processing data closer to the source rather than sending everything to the cloud.
But scaling that must be tough.
Scalability is a major challenge, often hindered by complex tech stacks and, frankly, a lack of expertise. This highlights the need for automation and integrated solutions. And then cloud integration offers scalable data storage and advanced analytics for the massive amounts of data generated by all these devices.
Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we've talked theory, we've talked best practices, but what happens when things go wrong? Our sources highlight some really striking real-world cybersecurity incidents that, well, they truly underscore the stakes involved.
Yeah, the sheer financial and reputational cost of cyber attacks is devastating. For example, just recently, in 2024, the industrial sector saw the sharpest increase in data breach costs, rising by $830,000 per incident on average.
Wow, per incident.
Per incident. And ransomware attacks on industrial organizations spiked 87% year over year. These aren't just abstract data problems. They can have very real physical and societal impacts, halting ports, crippling supply chains, or even worse.
Can you give us some tangible examples of how these vulnerabilities actually play out in practice?
Sure. Beyond the water treatment plant attack we mentioned earlier, the 2021 Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, well, they gained access through a single compromised VPN password.
Just one password.
Just one password, reportedly not protected by multi-factor authentication. And this single point of failure led to a massive fuel shortage on the U.S. East Coast. It really underscores the critical need for multi-factor authentication everywhere.
Absolutely.
Another classic example is the 2013 Target data breach. Hackers gained access through a compromised account belonging to an HVAC vendor, a third party. This demonstrated the immense third-party risk inherent in today's interconnected supply chains.
So it's not just your own security you have to worry about.
Not at all. Your partners, your suppliers, they're part of your attack surface. And it's not just external threats either. The 2023 Tesla data leak involved 2 former employees stealing confidential data, affecting over 75,000 employees. Similarly, the Yahoo incident in 2022 saw a senior research scientist download 570,000 files of intellectual property just as he quit to join a competitor. These highlight critical insider risks, which are often much more challenging to detect and mitigate than external attacks.
People on the inside.
Exactly. Or even just mistakes. The Pegasus Airlines case in 2022 is another startling example. A simple configuration fault by an employee exposed 6.5 terabytes of sensitive data, including flight charts and crew personal information.
These stories certainly drive home the point that cybersecurity isn't just an IT department's problem. It's really an organizational and societal one, spanning both external attackers and, well, internal threats or errors. Which brings us neatly to hybrid work. How has the massive shift to working from home and other third spaces introduced entirely new security and privacy complexities?
Well, the hybrid work environment is essentially an expanded, much more diffuse attack surface. Employees are now working on home networks, which vary wildly in security. Sometimes they're working with always-on, always-listening devices like virtual assistants nearby, potentially introducing eavesdropping risks, or using productivity software that could inadvertently collect personal data.
Things you wouldn't have in a controlled office environment.
Exactly. And there's also the risk of family members or housemates gaining access to privileged company data, maybe just by using the same shared devices or networks without thinking. This also really complicates liability for breaches. It blurs the lines of responsibility when an incident occurs in a home setting. For example, is an employee's unsecured home Wi-Fi router considered a company vulnerability? It gets tricky.
Yeah, that raises a really important question. How can organizations maintain robust security when the traditional office perimeter has effectively dissolved and work happens everywhere?
Zero trust architecture has emerged as a very promising solution. It completely abandons the traditional moat and castle network security model, where everything inside the network walls is trusted by default.
Right. Trust but verify is out.
It's more like never trust, always verify.
Yeah.
Zero trust continuously authenticates users and devices, regardless of their location or whether they are technically inside or outside the traditional corporate network. Every single access request is verified. Every user and device is assumed untrusted until proven otherwise for that specific request at that specific time.
So constant checking.
Constant validation.
Yeah.
This architecture promises a much more seamless experience for employees, ideally, while maintaining state-of-the-art digital security for the organization.
It sounds like an ideal solution on paper, maybe, but what's the catch? Nothing in cybersecurity is ever perfectly simple, is it?
That's a very fair challenge. Advanced zero-trust systems can be expensive and incredibly complicated for smaller organizations, or even some larger ones, to implement correctly. It's a major architectural shift. Also, the name itself, zero trust, can sometimes have negative connotations. It might imply mistrust between the employer and employee, which can create cultural resistance.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's a definite need for standardization, like the NIST 800-207 framework, to provide clear guidance. And perhaps even, a rebranding to something like layered security or continuous verification might help, just to emphasize protection against bad actors rather than a perceived lack of trust in legitimate users.
Given all these complex and evolving threats, from the convergence of industrial and information systems to the omnipresent IoT and the new realities of hybrid work, it's crystal clear that the demand for skilled cybersecurity professionals is only going to grow. Professionals capable of understanding and managing both external and internal risks. Whether you're looking to build your expertise in broader cybersecurity challenges, which, again, you can explore resources for at teamrisk.securitycareers.help, or maybe focusing on that specialized area of preventing and managing threats from within an organization covered over at insiderrisk.securitycareers.help. These are absolutely crucial fields for our interconnected future. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. From the fundamental shifts happening as IT and OT converge, to the pervasive nature of IoT devices and their unique vulnerabilities, and finally, the complex security landscape introduced by hybrid work. We've seen how real-world incidents underscore the critical need for robust security measures and the constant evolution of defense strategies.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the convergence of our digital and physical worlds means that cybersecurity is no longer just about protecting data on a screen. It's really about safeguarding critical infrastructure.
Things we rely on every day.
Exactly. Ensuring physical safety in our factories and cities, and maintaining trust in an increasingly interconnected society. The solutions involve not just cutting-edge technology, but also strategic planning, clear policy frameworks, and crucially, a highly skilled and vigilant workforce.
So what does all this mean for you listening right now? As our lives become ever more intertwined with technology, understanding these risks and the importance of strong cybersecurity becomes really everyone's responsibility. It's a dynamic field with constant new challenges, but also incredible opportunities for those ready to tackle them.
And perhaps something to leave you with, consider this. In a world where a single misconfigured network setting can halt a major port, or a seemingly innocuous smart home device could potentially be a backdoor into critical corporate systems, what single proactive step can you take today to better secure your own digital perimeter, knowing that every connected device you own is both a convenience and potentially a vulnerability?